Hello, I'm Tim. I'm 80 years old, and I spent my career as an educator. I've traveled the world, speak multiple languages, and my wife and I hosted 20 foreign exchange students from 20 different countries over the years. I've watched American foreign policy my entire adult life, and now people are asking me if we're going back to isolationism. Let me explain what that means.
Now, you've probably heard Trump say China pays the tariffs, and you've heard economists say American consumers pay them. There's a lot of confusion about this, so let me walk you through exactly how it works. Think of tariffs like a sales tax. When you buy something at a store in Arizona, there's a 6% sales tax added to your bill. The store collects it and sends it to the state. Technically, the store paid the tax to the government, but really, you paid it. It was on your receipt. Tariffs work the same way. Let's use a real example. Say you own a business in Arizona that imports steel from China. The steel costs $100. Trump puts a 25% tariff on Chinese steel. When that steel arrives at the U.S. border, Customs and Border Protection tells you, that'll be $25, please. You, the American business owner, write that check to the U.S. Treasury. The Chinese supplier already got their $100, you're out $125 total. Now you face a choice: absorb that $25 cost and make less profit, or raise your prices to cover it. Most businesses raise prices, and that's what the data shows happened. Studies from both conservative and liberal research groups found that when Trump imposed tariffs in 2018-2019, consumer prices rose to match about 80% of the tariff costs. Now, Trump is right that China's economy gets hurt too. Chinese steel companies see orders drop as American businesses buy less or switch to other suppliers. They might have to lower their prices to stay competitive. So yes, China feels economic pain. But here's what matters for your life. The tariff payment itself comes from American companies, and most of that cost gets passed to you through higher prices. So when you hear debates about who pays, the real answer is it's complicated, but you're probably paying more for things, and Chinese exporters are also hurting. The question isn't really who pays, it's whether the trade-offs are worth it. Historically, tariffs served two purposes: raising government revenue and protecting domestic industries. In the 1800s, tariffs were how the U.S. government funded itself. There was no income tax yet. The idea is, if foreign steel is cheaper than American steel, a tariff makes foreign steel more expensive, giving American steel companies a chance to compete. This can protect American jobs in those industries. But there's a trade-off. Those tariffs make everything more expensive for American consumers and businesses that use steel. A car company pays more for steel, so cars cost more. Construction costs more, everything downstream gets pricier. After World War II, the United States led an effort to reduce tariffs worldwide. Why? Because economists and policymakers believed high tariffs in the 1930s, particularly the Smoot-Hawley tariff, had made the Great Depression worse by collapsing international trade. So America helped create GATT, the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade, which later became the World Trade Organization. The goal was simple: lower tariffs, increase trade, create prosperity, and tie countries together economically so they'd be less likely to go to war. For 70 years, this system worked. Global trade exploded. Tariffs dropped from an average of 40% in the 1940s to around 3% by 2000. Living standards rose worldwide. This was the foundation of what people call the liberal international order. But there was a downside for some Americans. As trade increased, some U.S. manufacturing jobs moved overseas where labor was cheaper. Entire communities, especially in the Rust Belt, were devastated. This created real anger and resentment. Donald Trump sees international trade very differently than the post war consensus. He views trade as a zero sum game. If China wins, America loses. He sees trade deficits, where we import more than we export, as proof that America is losing at trade. Most economists say trade deficits aren't necessarily bad. They can mean Americans have more buying power and access to cheaper goods. But Trump sees them as evidence of bad deals, and he believes tariffs are leverage, tools to force other countries to make concessions. Tariffs also appeal to Trump's political base. Workers in manufacturing states who lost jobs to globalization see tariffs as someone finally fighting for them. Trump's message is simple: I'll make foreign countries pay, and I'll bring your jobs back. Do they work? Here's the complicated reality. Tariffs can protect specific industries in the short term, but they also raise prices for everyone, invite retaliation from other countries, and can hurt American exporters. Economists generally agree the costs outweigh the benefits. Trump's use of tariffs isn't just about trade policy, it represents a fundamental challenge to the post-war international system. For 75 years, the U.S. led a global order built on free trade, international rules, and cooperation. Trump's approach is transactional, nationalist, and skeptical of that system. Whether you think that's good or bad, it's a major change. If the U.S. abandons the trade system it created, what comes next? Do we return to the protectionism of the 1930s? Does China fill the leadership vacuum? Do we get a splintered world with competing trade blocs? There's no simple answer. The post-war trade system created enormous wealth, but also left some communities behind. Trump's tariffs address real grievances, but create new problems. Understanding this tension is key to understanding where America and the world is heading. Did this answer your questions about tariffs, or did it raise new ones? Drop them in the comments. I read them all. If you want more explanations like this, subscribe. Thanks for watching.